G'day listeners and welcome to Bar Karate, another week of talking sailing. I can't wait. I'm excited to be here. We've got a great show lined up for you. My name is Jordan Spencer and joining me are my good mates, Mr. Brett Perry. How are you, bud?
Yeah, good evening. I'm going to quickly throw this one in. We were just talking about it to all the Kiwis out there. Commiserations. Let us Lake Cup, you beauty.
And good work, BP. Mr. Nick Bice. Where are you, mate?
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Ándale, iba.
That sounds like Mexico.
Down in Coronas like they're going out of fashion.
Yeah, the Mexican version of Spanish.
I don't think you have to guess.
Good work.
I think you're on a world beer tour. I don't think it's to work.
Well, I've actually decided I might write a book on that. So I'm going to have to retrace all my steps over the last few years and recount every beer that I've had. And I think it could be quite an interesting book.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Probably might be a little X-rated.
It's a great idea, bud. I love it. I reckon you should.
All right, well, I think that's probably going to be one of the questions we should bring up, the name of Bicey's book.
Yeah, one day we'll get to
it. Memoirs of a Glass Boy. I've already named it.
Memoirs of a Glassy. Very good.
All right, guys.
Straight from the Sailmaster Tavern.
We've got a great program. Let's move on. We've got a great program lined up. We're going to have a chat with Luca Rizotti, who is the president of Falling Week, later on in the show. We're going to look at all the new boats that have been launched over the last few weeks. There have been some amazing things coming out of the sheds, and we're going to discuss their unique aesthetic. But first off, we are chatting to a bloke that whenever he walks into a sailing club or into a room, he knows that not one person he is talking to has ever sailed a boat faster than him. Mr. Paul Larsen, the world's fastest sailor, world record holder, 65.5 knots. Get out of it. Mr. Larsen, welcome to us. Bar Karate, mate.
Yes,
happy
welcome.
To be here. It never gets, it's something, whenever you hear that title get read out, sometimes you forget about it yourself and then you're reminded of it, and makes me smile every time, makes the 11 years of hard work worth it.
Well, big congratulations from Bar Karate. I think all three of us imagine that we could probably do better, but we've not even got close. We're probably at 20 knots still, most of us. It's a mighty effort.
I got to say though, I still put that YouTube video on, and I just wonder what exactly you were thinking.
Well, it was. I try and explain to everyone that the reason for the swearing all the way down that course is because in my head I was always doing the 15-second average, and because you're doing 2.5 times wind speed, the boat, you get 5-knot gust range. You know that's a variation that's quite high, and so if you accelerate onto the course. Usually in the bearaways, when you hit your top speed, it's probably the same as what these Sail GP boats are doing now. You unload the foil, you get rid of a bit of drag, and off you go. But then you can slow down and then accelerate and slow down and accelerate. And all the time in your head, you're doing, what do you think the average is down the course? And on that run, you'd hit the course at peaked at 68.33 knots, which is faster than I've ever been before. But the amazing thing was it didn't drop off much. The lowest speed of that run was 62.7. So as I'm going down there and I'm swearing and saying, that's fast, that's effing fast, that's real effing fast, in my head I'm counting out the big number, the average number, and thinking that's in the bank, that's going to count. So, happy days. Yeah.
In the bank, probably in your pants as well. Holy crap.
Well, unfortunately with speed sailing.
Holy crap, literally.
Actually goes in the bank, so yeah.
So can I just put some numbers against that? Because obviously we've got a lot to talk about. You haven't just gone fast, mate. You've done a lot of things. But just to translate for the rest of the world, so 121 knots, kilometres an hour, 75 miles an hour. And you also got the mile record at 55 knots, so the nautical mile record at 55.32 knots, which is just insane in a boat that really just looked like it didn't look like a boat. It was crazy.
It was as much an aeroplane as it was a boat, and it's the guy who originally came up with the concept of opposing forces and wrote about it back in the late 50s and early 60s. he likens the concept as of being people who live in the air who reach down and touch the water, whereas we see it from a more earthbound perspective. He had a different take on the whole concept, and I suppose that's where the genius came from, to look at a sailing boat in a different manner, and that's what that boat represents, really.
Yeah, look, it's probably a good question that sort of leads to this. You're sitting around, I think you're still probably back in Melbourne at this stage, and you decided you're going to go and do this. I mean, what actually drives it? I mean, what does it start? Just having a beer with your mates going, yeah, I'm going to go give that a crack? Or do you is it something that's planned? Or
it was the first. I lived up in rural Victoria, and I hadn't sat on a sailing boat or been shown a sailing boat of any sort. And we, in these stinking hot summers, I know it's not like that down there now, but it's these 40-degree days, you'd be swimming in the dams. We didn't have town water or pools or anything, so you swim in these dams. And Dad was building a house, and lots of wood offcuts and things, and he was into planes, and we used to build gliders. And back in those, you didn't get kits, you got a few sheets of balsa, and you had to work out where to put the length, and the nails in the nose to make it all work. So you worked out the balance points, and what happens when you make bigger spans and lighter and put two smaller tails on it. You just learnt all that stuff yourself. And so one day swimming around in the dam, he just got a flat bit of pine wood and cut a V in the nose and put a margarine tin or margarine lid on the top for a sail, just at 90 degrees, and the thing blew across the pond. And it was and from then I sort of hadn't thought about building a sailing boat in the dam. And so you just started putting bigger sails, and it would fall over, keels with bits of lead on it, and it would sink, making it longer. It would go faster, put the sail up the front, it would turn that way, put the sail down. And you just got this or you learn what makes a sailing boat work and how it balances. And they just got bigger and bigger and faster and faster. Then the wings got broken off your gliders, and then the wings were put on these models, and then outriggers and canting keels and deck spreaders and all these things and no one had shown you how to do this. It was just what made it go faster and what seemed to stack up and work. And to get into sailing after that and go down, Dad eventually bought a little Hobie Cat, and we actually learned to sail up at Bonnie Doon. So
Bonnie Doon. So it's fair to say that you didn't play footy then.
No, I was crap at footy and I was crap at cricket, and it was so when you live in those rural towns, if you can't do that, then you hang out in the dam, and so it's but I guess that fascination with what makes a sailing boat work stuck with me, and I was very fortunate around that time. Those formative years, Australia won the America's Cup, so that became a big thing that grabbed the nation's attention, and especially mine. Also, when I got to sailing, Australia was down there in Victoria, was into the Little America's Cup, the yellow Victoria 150, yellow pages, or the edge boats, I should call them. And a spin-off of that was that they built yellow pages Endeavour later on. And so these guys, when I saw those boats, I remembered, that they hit me between the eyes, because I was already putting little wings on boats in your dam, and you saw these big things. I was actually racing against them, and fortunately, I've had a good chance to do both C-class and speed sailing, and to meet some of those guys again afterwards. Simon McKeon, after 30 years, who did the Yellow Pages and the Little America's Cup boats, and I saw him on a boat ramp at the Contender Worlds. I think it was last year down there at Macrae. And he walked up the same boat ramp I last saw him in 30 years ago. And I was watching. I was a kid on this beach, and it was and watching that stuff, and it had a big effect. So America's Cup, Volvos, and all that wasn't really my thing. Keel boats is something I've got into later, but the passion was always there to see how fast you could make something go across that little stretch of water, and that was it.
Oh, sorry. I was just want to ask you there, mate. When I watched this quite closely when you did it, because I was like you, we're probably about the same age, and I remember the Yellow Pages stuff quite well, and I used to read up all of that stuff, every element of it. And then when I looked at your boat, and do the record, and sort of that sort of cantilever effect that you went for with just the little pods. One of the things when I saw the video is I looked at that pod that was under the mast step, I guess is the best way to describe it, where you base your sail is, and that pod actually seemed to lift out of the water. It hardly touched.
Well, there's about the static weight out on that point is somewhere around 78 kilos. That's the weight of the wing and the beam end and the pod and everything. So that bit is being flown aerodynamically by that little wing extension that goes out and sticks out to leeward. And that's traveling in ground effect. So when it begins to fly high, it loses ground effect. So it's a slightly dynamically self-regulating, hovering thing out there. Now, all the drags, hydrodynamic, that's the big stuff. You can spend a lot of stuff on aero, but it's the stuff in the water that's murdering you. And it's one thing to, everyone's very excited about hydrofoils, but when you start lifting these things up on aerofoils, then that's the next cool level. And you're going to see that more and more in sailing. That's the next thing you aim for, really. Our foil's actually holding us down to the water. It's not holding us up at all. It's the wing and everything's trying to pull us up. If our foil fails, well, I go airborne. So, which was one of the failure modes that's also designed in that boat. Fortunately, we didn't have to test it. But if our foil fails, that's why I'm sitting up at the nose, and the area of the beam at the back is such that if the back of the boat lifts up, it gets to about 4 degrees before that beam pushes it back down again. Wow. And all the shape of the V and everything in the nose of the boat is there. So if I have a nosedive at that speed, it would be a happy ending. I wouldn't get in that boat again now. You got to realize that boat didn't work up until about 12 days before we found the missing ingredient, and it turned on like a light switch. And then we only had a few days of good wind, and every day we went out, it went not incrementally quicker. It just jumped up the speedboard in huge leaps and bounds, and we didn't have time to worry about the safety or any other aspect other than to just please manage the fragility of the moment and get that number in that little GPS, and then bring it back to shore nice and safe. And one of the happiest moments of that whole project was wheeling it up the yacht club lawn completely intact, and it was out of the water, the wing was down, we were safe. On that last day, we did 360 knot peak runs and back to back. And we fought it out, but it was a dangerous bit of kit. There's a few failure modes there that would have been a pretty rapid escalation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So super cool, Paul. And we'll get on to what you're seeing out there now. But prior to that, going from super fast to going to super slow, the Shackleton voyage. From obviously you got a bit of adventure's blood in you, and you joined probably a good mate of ours to do that. But that must have been a complete different experience. One week you're doing 60 knots, the next week you're doing 0.6.
Well, it was that was a totally surreal experience. That's something you never expect to do. It's a book you read. And it's one of the most awesome stories ever told, really. And so to go down there and at some stage stand on somewhere as remote as Elephant Island and go and have to get into costume, and you get into that clothing, and that little boat comes around the corner, and you got to get on that and do that trip. It's crazy. All the smell of the penguins and those colonies and the glaciers and I'd never seen ice before I went down there. I've been around the planet a couple of times, but I've never been exposed to it or even seen an iceberg. So that was surreal. We literally came home from Sail Rocket from the airport, and I walked in the door and picked up my bag and jumped in the car and went out again and didn't stay in the house that night. It was that quick. So to be sitting down on that boat and thinking, God, you're on this James Caird replica, this Alexander Shackleton bobbing away with whales everywhere and all this brash ice. And I'm sitting down below, and I'm still sitting there going 65.5 knots. Like it was that fresh in my head, and I was trying to, and yet something else crazy was happening. And then for the hike over South Georgia, I laugh because everywhere over South Georgia, every time you stop for a piss, you just write 65.5 knots. You try pissing in the snow, and it's so it was those two things back to back were surreal. I got home and it was sat on the couch when I came back, and the next morning, and I said to Helena, it feels like the first day I've ever had off in my life. Like I've just, that's enough. I can be happy with that. There's no pressure. I don't feel, mostly to myself, that I have to be so driven to see if I can make it and do something, or see how I'd go in that situation. So I'd say that was the biggest luxury from the whole experience. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life telling people why you didn't do it. It had to follow. And and the boat, you see, I don't know, over my shoulder here was Team Phillips, and I was part of that whole program when I came over from Australia to Europe, and that was a fascinating project, really pushing the bounds of what could be done, that obviously didn't end up that well, and small things escalated into big things for various reasons. It's a story that's never been fully told in depth, but to actually live it and feel that sense of loss when you step off and that thing all goes pear-shaped and you can't resurrect it, that was a sickening feeling. And I thought when we do our own projects, I never want to have that happen again. So the level of detail and thoroughness we did Star Rocket with, it took 11 years, but it got through there in the end. So that was a good feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I just for those who don't know, if you've never read The Shackleton, it's probably one of the great stories of seamanship. And Tim Jarvis, who's actually quite a good mate to us, he's a modern day explorer who recreates some of the old things in exactly the same clothes, exactly the same food, and that's effectively what you're saying. And you were the navigator and only had the sextant, the Don McIntyre approved navigation equipment.
Yeah, it was that pure comedy trying to use it too. I mean, you try not to poke your eye out half the time. I mean, you're something. It's like swatting for an exam. You pick up the sextant, you learn, you get your tables. You're standing on a few beaches down here and getting a few sights. Then you actually get on this boat that's got no keel. It's only 23 foot, and you're rolling around in these, 8-10 foot seas down there, and you can barely see the horizon. The Southern Ocean's just grey all the time. So we had two noon sights on the whole trip, and that was it. That's all we. So the rest was dead. The rest was dead reckoning. So thankfully, you're not on a boat that's got a very broad speed range. You got a good idea. You're doing between 2 and 3 knots most of the time. Wow. And also, you didn't put a lot of sail up intentionally. That boat was a delivery vehicle to get 6 men from there to there. You're not racing. You're making it easy for the guys who are non-sailors to hold a course. The compass was of the same vintage. There was no lights, no anything. You had to light a candle to see the compass, and the candle burnt for about 30 or 40 minutes. And if you couldn't keep your matches dry, then there was no compass at night. There was no plastic bags for matches. It was wax paper. We knew we had to be as authentic as possible, and we're very good at self-policing, because you don't want to have to do it again. You don't want anyone to say afterwards, yeah, but they did this or they did that. It was, let's do this once and do it right, and shun any of the mod cons. And that in itself is an experience. It's it's hard not to use the modern technology. Your camera, everything's got a GPS in it now. We had to tape everything up and off and stuff, and just make sure, even when the support boat, once a day we would call in a sked. I think it was 6 o'clock in the evening, and the support boat would be way off in the distance, and we'd just simply call up and say, this is where we think we are, and based on this, this is what our plan is for the next coming days. And the brief to the skipper of that boat was, to simply say copy. Don't say well done or you're looking good, guys. Nothing like that, because we'll misconstrue it or lead off it. And he wouldn't even hold a solid course, because we were thinking, if I get on there and hold a really accurate course, and he puts his boat down there and just puts it on autopilot, then the next guy who doesn't know how to sail can get up there and just keep the support boat on his like on his 6 o'clock. And just, so the other guy was weaving all over the place and disappearing in and out of the fogs. And so, yeah, it was very interesting.
Very cool. Hey, it's all on video too, so it's a documentary that was filmed. So if you want to go and see it, it's a great documentary to go and check out. I've got one more question for you, mate. I'm interested because you're doing the A classes, as you said, the C classes on the IMOCAs at the moment. You're on the Mod 70s, and you were with the Phillips thing. So you've sort of been at the edge of everything. What's the next breakthrough, do you reckon? It's aerodynamics, I'm guessing, by what you've said.
Yeah, look, it was at 2012 when we got the record. That was when the AC-72s really started to kick in and pop up on foils, and watching those things evolve was really impressive, because obviously we're doing 500 meters and those guys were belting around courses and learning so quickly, and watching almost the level of change and improvement they'd make overnight. It impressed no one more than ourselves, because we understood exactly what they were up against, and just going and thankfully the Sail GP guys invited us up, and we had a tour of the facilities the other day, and I was out in Bermuda and stuff, so I'd seen all the stuff there, but it's impressive. With the third boat that we developed, we just let our thinking sort of run wild after Sail Rocket 2, and we came up with an offshore concept that in 2013 looked a bit wild and crazy, but looking what everyone's doing now, the general sailing public are becoming accustomed to this level of craziness. So sometimes it gets hard selling crazy all the time. You think Sail Rocket will give us an advantage when you go into a boardroom saying, look, we come up with crazy and we turn it into reality. We know the path. But a lot of people will still sit on the fence. Now, 7 years later, people are starting to really look for crazy in the next thing. And it's not such a big leap of an imagination to build boats that fill niche areas that didn't exist before. Watching sitting there on that IMOCA boat, we had a blinder in the Fastnet, and on the old boat we managed to get the first out to the Sillies, and then all the new generation of boats got the breeze, and they came down on us like a pack of wolves. And I saw a Shirel go past, and I had to almost do the double back of your fist eye wipe sort of comedy eye wipe to make sure that Shirel was not a Mod 70 or a trimaran coming by, because the bow was like 5 or 6 foot out of the water, and the speed it was just lunging by, it was double our speed, and it was just so impressive to watch. And then in the same weekend, Hugo Boss comes out, and then you start to see a boat that's where it looks like you add predominantly inside, even barely with windows, and it starts to go down a path. In a way, this path is coming. It's always obvious that it is coming, but to see people who get the funding and the backing and then go out and turn it into reality, that's the impressive stuff. The old teams are already doing it. They're indoors. They're moving their cockpits forward. Sailing's, there's so much that hasn't been done. There's so much that hasn't been done, so much it's capable of doing, and it just takes the people with the vision to go out there and do it. It's for me, though, the next thing, the interesting thing that sailing has to do, and the thing that it hasn't done yet, and any of these boats haven't done yet, is that they haven't shown that they can be commercially viable. The fact that all these boats are for sports, they're for frivolous pastimes, whether it be cruising or whatever. The fact that nowhere in the modern world is sailing boats being used Well, I say that, but you're starting to see sail drone and these boats that Richard Jenkins and that are putting out over in Alameda. They're out there actually using sailing, but nowhere else is it being used. And I'd like to see boats start to do useful work again, and not for us just to build a transatlantic record-breaking boat is not hard. It's time and money. You get the right people and stuff, and you go out there and you sit there and you get your weather and you break that record. And I think it's time for those who have the ability to start seeing if we can make it useful again. And that's where Sail Rocket 3 was headed. And to be useful, it's basically got to carry weight. And
I guess that's probably a little bit what the Artemis technology guys are trying to do at the moment, Paul.
Absolutely, yeah. When I saw they jumped straight into the design space we were looking at, but they brought it, they completely of their own doing, and they brought what they know, what their background is, which is, you can see the direct lineage to the America's Cup boats, but the concept is very similar. The ability for sailing boats to regenerate energy out there, instead of our offshore sailing boat doing, 50 knots, 25 knots will be fine. 50 knots, 30 knots is stressful. Anything above that's just starting to get, unless you're racing, is pretty high tariff. But if you've got that potential, if you've got a very efficient sailing boat, and instead of just using it for outright speed, you use it to regenerate or to carry more payload, you sacrifice a bit of the top speed, then you start to get boats that do interesting things. If you can start jumping around the oceans just using various bits of weather as lily pads just to recharge your boat, that's interesting. And you generate, you can generate a lot of energy. If you've got a boat that's trying to do 50 and you put a 40 centimetre, hydro generator down, that charges a lot of batteries real quick. And we started to design boats for our parameters where it has to be able to sail 650 miles in a day and motor with the energy it recovers for 650 the next day. So then these are the numbers you put in your VPPs, and we don't have to come up with the numbers of battery efficiency or battery size or hydro generator capabilities. They're all proven givens that you just take out and you plug into these equations, and then you design the boat to do it. Sail Rocket 2 was, we didn't start off thinking this is what the boat looks like. We set a few parameters, and then the maths had to design the boat. And the boat that came out at the end, we all sat there and went, cool, that's what it looks like. That's how it has to be, that strong and that powerful and that efficient, and survive these practical aspects of wave height and then launching and fitting in a container and so on. And that's what the boat came out with. And if you work backwards from these problems like that, instead of trying to force, it's got to look like an America's Cup boat, or it's got to be a keel boat, or it's got to be a Sail Rocket style boat, you end up with some pretty funky solutions, and the computers are just waiting for the people to ask them the right questions. But they won't come up with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like the right part of the sustainability chat that we all like. So, yeah, keep it going on. It's fantastic.
Fascinating stuff, and I'll tell you, there's some exciting things happening, and obviously with all the right people doing the right things, we'll come up with some interesting stuff over the next few years. So we'll see how it all pans out, eh?
That's the plan.
All right, mate.
And over the next, sorry, just one last one there. Have you got a publisher for the book you're going to write yet? Because Barkarati are moving into the publishing space.
Well, there you go. You've got to jump on them then, because we haven't. I don't know. It's sort of funny. You don't know when the book's going to end, really. You always think there's another chapter, and some of it you think you could have tidied that one up when we stood on the in the beach in Namibia, and maybe we should have. But it's all archived. We've got an amazing archive. Yeah.
No, Barkarati's got a solution for that. We'll just keep writing new different episodes, so it becomes like a Netflix series. So we're working on it.
Keep the mic on. I'm not known for using few words when many will do. So it's
well, chat, beautiful.
All right, mate. Well, we're going to have to call it quits on you now. Unfortunately, we've enjoyed chatting, so I guess we'll get you back on again for another chat at some stage. But we do really appreciate you taking the time to come and sit with us here on Barkarati, and hopefully everything in the future it comes up roses, mate?
Yeah. Well, it's already good. These are happy days. Plenty of boats to play with. The A-Class Worlds are in the backyard here in Weymouth in a couple of weeks. So hopefully this weather dies down and I get to go out there and see what I got. So it's good to mix it up.
Yeah, maybe that's a good opportunity to have a chat again in a couple of weeks' time to see how that all went down. We did see some nice footage the other day on YouTube with that beautiful 720 you did. Was that a choreographed bit of work, or did that happen by accident?
For a second there, I thought I was going to land back on my feet, and I thought if I can land on my feet and sheet on out of this, it's going to be. I've had a bit of experience doing circle work in the past, so that's all right.
We all have, mate. Aussie circle work with the ute.
Absolutely.
All right, boys, we're going to transition. Thanks again, Paul. It's been great fun.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers, mate.
All right. All the best, guys. Cheers.
Good on you, Paul. Thanks, mate.
Righto, guys, we have to go on to a little bit of a discussion point. What I want to bring in here is the old IMOCA 60s have been dropping this week, and they're quite unique looking. And our good mate BP, who's here on the call with us, he's got a boat he's been working with FAR that's just about to drop. It's the FAR 43 Cruiser Racer, design number 844, if you want to Google that. What are they ugly? Is Brett's better? Which one's going to succeed? I know I'm interested as to see how it's all going to come about. So I just wanted to get the chat going. Vicey, I'll start with you. Yeah.
So I've got a feeling the FAR 43 is probably going to be a little more accessible.
Looks like we just lost Vicey there, Jordan, but
yep.
I can probably lift off from there.
Yep.
Basically, the F43, look, to just keep the story going. I'm working with FAR Yachts International, and we've come up with a design, the F43. And as Vicey was saying, it is a bit more accessible. It's a boat that's sort of looking after the cruiser racer market sector, and these Volvos these IMOCAs that are out, they're definitely designed for a purpose. And I think every boat is designed for different purposes. But I'll tell you what, these IMOCAs are pretty awesome looking weapons, I can tell you.
Sorry, lads, I just dropped out there. Back online.
Yeah, we got you back, buddy. So go with what you're going to say.
No, basically along the lines of, I think we'll probably end up seeing more of the FAR 43s, and as they are, will be more accessible, and we'll be seeing them a lot in a lot of club racing, I believe. And I guess they're going to rate pretty well on IRC, so it's going to bring some great sailing and good memories for a lot of people, as opposed to, as Bretto just said, the IMOCA's purpose-built purely for racing around the world, especially these last four that we've seen come out, who are just one goal in mind, and that is to win the Vendée Globe. And I'm not sure what life they have after that, because it's limited corporate sailing, limited anything else on it. So two complete opposite ends of the scale, but exciting times to be in yachting, I tell you.
Especially the Hugo Boss, you get on board for a corporate day. Okay, just go downstairs, thanks. We'll see you in an hour or two.
Yeah. Well, let's go. So, again, let me describe. So the 43, the Cruiser Racer, it's a modern classic look. It's a beautiful looking boat. I think you're going to have a lot of success with it, Brett. It looks like a lot of fun. Go on.
Yeah, look, I guess thanks for the opportunity to talk about my own project. It's nice to be able to talk about it. Britton Ward and I have worked very hard for the last best part of a year and a half to get it to this stage, and the F43 came about from looking at the market that has been sort of relatively forgotten about. If you're in a sort of the market for a higher end premium high performance sort of boat that's got all the bells and whistles, but can still be utilised as a boat on the weekend with your family or with your friends, and that's where it came from. The IRC rule has been sort of working more and more towards boats that actually perform, such as your TP52s and your Fast 40s. All those sort of boats have seen an edge over the last few years, and And the Division 2 sort of, I guess, boats of that genre have been forgotten about a little bit. You've got your X-Yachts, you've got your Beneteaus, that they were all, at the top end of the racing fleet in results, but they've obviously been overtaken or superseded by now the TPs and the purpose-built, racing boats. And so the market sort of was screaming out for us, and that's where we've aimed. And I think we've hit the nail on the head, and we've got lots and lots of interest. We're in the last stages of negotiations with the builders, and then once that's done, we'll be starting our marketing campaign probably within the next week or so. So stay tuned. F43 Far Yacht Design. Yo.
So they may not be so different after all, because we don't know what's down below on the Hugo Boss. They might have a big saloon table.
Yeah. Well, let's roll into it. So, I guess what I'm talking about is the obvious visual difference with the, I don't know how to describe it, the streamlined bow where it sort of tapers back in from a hard chine halfway along up the bow. But before we go, they get a little more extreme. But we'll start. We saw the IMOCA 60 of Charlie Dallin drop this week, a Pivia, which they attributed to being like the Super 60 or the as birthed from the Super 60 project that the Volvo Ocean Race put together. It's a Guillaume Verdier design. Now, Nick, you and I have a fair bit of knowledge about that, so let's just actually go into that one and explain that boat. You want to go with that?
Yeah, sure. So the Super 60, when we put that design together, we were fortunate enough to work with some of the best in the business in regards to coming up with that design. And the initial design brief was to design a boat that has no limits at all. No limits.
We just wanted the fastest boat possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And as it turned out, that no limits boat was very close. I think it was around 63 feet long. So that then got us thinking, well, if that's at 63 feet, maybe we could then bring in the IMOCA world, because at that time there was a transition coming up for the Volvo Ocean Race, which has now transitioned completely to IMOCA. So instead of having the 63-footer, which basically looks like an IMOCA, shall we make it fit into the IMOCA rule, but with no limit still for our race, which include foil rudders, canting rig, all that sort of thing. And then once that, unfortunately, that program the pin got pulled on that, it gave an opportunity to keep creating what was the Super 60, but to make it a viable IMOCA IMOCA boat, of which it is now, which is Afia. They basically purchased the design as it was, and they did their own in-house design and worked close with Guillaume and his team to actually finalise what they have. And that's what we're seeing coming out of the shed now.
Which makes us very happy, obviously, because a lot of thought and love went into that boat. Obviously, it's minus the foils on the rudder and the canting rig, because they don't fit the IMOCA rule. And those ideas pretty much came from beer, didn't they, Bud?
Well, yeah, it's not unusual that any ideas that run through my head, that beer has something to do with it. But no, we, as I was saying, we had a fantastic design team, led by Guillaume Verdier.
Yeah.
We had Nick Holroyd there. Yep. We had a lot of people with a lot of Cup influence and IMOCA influence and Volvo Ocean Race influence. So I think it's sometimes there we had 20-odd people sitting around the table. So on one side, you've got Ray Davies, basically just fresh out of winning the America's Cup. Actually, so fresh even, he would even still buy the shots when we're still talking about it on some dinners. And then on the other side, you've got Coxie, who's been fully immersed in Volvo world for the last 20 years, asking how that is going to work operationally. So it was almost the perfect situation.
And for anybody out there that's a fireball sailor or sailed a fireball, that was the description that Guillaume would get up in his little French accent and say, you lack a fireball. He was talking about the shape. So there's a little bit of at the back of the boat, the way the whole shapes through to the stern is quite interesting. Which did they keep that come through with Charlie's boat? Do you know?
Not not as much with Charlie's, but probably more with Tomarunt's boat,
which
I understand is in France at the moment. They're just waiting on some of the last bits of equipment to go on board before that emerges out of the shed. But Charlie, working with Team Massif and all those, like with Francois Gabard, and that's going to be whatever changes they made to the design of that boat is only going to be good, I would think.
Yeah, copy. And then we saw Alex Thompson's boat, the Hugo Boss, the next Hugo Boss to come out, a VPLP design built by Jason Carrington and his team. He's gone a risky. He's gone the bright pink foils instead of the fluoro orange foils. So we're not sure if that's quick or not. But that boat
suits Alex.
Suits Alex. She's quite, but she takes that whole look that we sort of saw emerge from Carkeek with Rand 7 and the Bowton designs, that bow shape, which has become very popular. What's the main benefit? Anybody want to take that on? I know what it does in my mind, but I just want to see.
From a design point of view, well, it's not for for saving water going over the deck.
No.
But generally it's to get the CG of the hull as low as possible, to get as much structure or volume of the boat out of call it where the gunnel normally would be.
Yep.
And we saw with some of Guillaume's boat, he calls it the spatula bow, like the foredeck rather, which is basically a concave in the foredeck. So knowing that a lot of water is going to come over, then the water can exit extremely quickly as well. But it's all got to do a lot with the roll as well. The lower the CG, and it's just the formula within the roll as well.
There's also an aerodynamic effect with the jib as well. But the other thing to talk about those bows is if you look at the waterline, they're trying to make it as much of a scow shape as they possibly can that fits within the rules. If you actually look at that underwater shape, they're all quite as pretty much as wide as they can go on the bow, effectively, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's 1.5 meters from length overall, or aft of the bow. There is a rule where the boat cannot be wider than. So that's why we're seeing that the bow's coming in, pretty much call it at the forestay bulkhead, and then they're tucking up very quickly. And essentially that is to also, I guess, fake the idea that the boat is longer than it actually is.
Be interesting to see if they, in the ocean race, some of these boats do join the ocean race, and we don't know which way the course is going yet, but if they do go up to Asia and got to go upwind, they're not going to be quick. As we saw in the Fastnet, the new boats in the light winds, upwind, the old boats smashed them, but as soon as they went onto a reach, see you later, different world.
I think the FAR 43 would get upwind quicker than these things.
Yep.
No, but upwind on an Omoka boat is a whole different concept, and that's upwind on an Omoka boat is 55, 60 degrees true, and but they're getting better for sure.
Then, of course, we saw. Well, I guess with Hugo Boss, that'll do its first race in October in the Transat Jacques Vabre, so we should see that come out. We won't see much of Alex though. He's going to be down below in the control room by the looks of it. Well, it's a bizarre looking boat, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe they haven't designed or finally finished the design on the actual waterproof Hugo Boss suit yet. So that might be in his next contract. He's got to wear a suit the whole way around the world.
Yeah, I was aligning with you on that one. I was thinking of something to say, but you beat me to it.
Yeah, good work. And then, of course, we saw Sebastian Simon's boat go, and we actually saw it race in the Fastnet, but electrical problems called its day pretty early, so we haven't got much of a clue as to how that thing's going to go. That's a 1K design, and of course 1K is known for designing some very, very quick boats. What do we reckon on that one?
No, I think the foils are going to be the biggest difference between Juan's boat and Guillaume's boat, for sure. I think Juan's and Guillaume's boat, the hull shapes are quite similar. It actually, King Marine in Spain built the tools or the plugs for those two boats that were being built at CDK, so the Apfia and Juan's boat. And rumour has it on the shop floor, the boys couldn't tell which one was which because the hull shapes were so similar. So I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, but it certainly looks as though the VPLP, call it Chirale, probably not so much Hugo Boss, have gone another route. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, Chirale won the Amoca class in the Fastnet we just saw, so she's finally got herself worked out. It's taken a year. So,
yeah.
And then, of course, Thomas Riant, his Verdier Persico built boat is, as you said just before, about to come out. We've seen the images as it came out of Persico, the bat boat we were calling it. Very much the design we've been looking at for a few years, yeah?
Absolutely. And I spoke to Guillaume during the week, and the most impressive thing from that boat, he said it's very, very light. So take that as you will. But that's so they've starting to achieve a lot of good things.
And then I guess the other thing that's getting exciting for everyone, so that's all Mocha boats. Luna Rossa rolled out of the shed the other day. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I had a usual look at it with those funny cube-shaped things on the side. They don't look very hydrodynamic.
Yeah, I think that's all that's hiding. It was
I'm
all
only
wrapped
joking.
in plastic.
Hey, yeah, look, I think that's another exciting corner of the world of sailing. That's just something just so to look forward to over the next couple of months or year or so. The Mocha's is a fascinating jewel, if you like, to get to the to get the boats to last around the track, but also to get that peak performance. But the AC boats is a whole new ball game again, and look, I can't wait to see them actually hitting the water. We've got American Magic that it's believed to be getting around a track 100% without touching down now, tacking and jibing. So they seem to have taken a little bit of a different route, and they've focused heavily on the systems that they were supplied by the AC with the foils, but they've done a lot of work at the aero stuff. It'll be interesting to see these new boats that are coming out, the 75s. It'll be interesting to see where they are with their rigs, because ultimately the rule states that it has to be a double membrane, and you haven't seen too much of any of that going on, have we?
No, we should get that, because obviously you've been heavily involved in that, so we should get that up as a discussion point once the boats do start launching and we see some imagery.
Yeah.
I reckon we might do that. Luna Rossa was always said it was going to launch at the end of August, and I mean they still haven't. I don't know if they've still got the actual One Design foil package that they came out with, where that's the hold up for all the boats to launch at the moment, is my understanding. I know New Zealand's ready to go, just waiting on that. So, go on.
No, that's the mail. I've heard also that everyone's holding up on that, and that may even lead to the regatta schedule prior to the America's Cup. It may impact that also.
Cool. The good thing is, though, if you're like us and you're mad for the sport and you love the technology side of it and you're interested, or you're a young kid listening into this and just going, yeah, this is cool. Well, you've got some exciting weeks ahead of you, because there's some seriously cool boats and some seriously interesting technology that's about to come down. And we'll be able to talk about it all, because we've sort of probably had a finger in a fair bit of those pies. We know a fair bit, so we'll be touching on all that, I'd say. Agreed?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Concur. Joining us now is Luca Rizotti, President of Foiling Week. It's a real pleasure to have you, Luca. Welcome to Barkarati, mate.
Hello, Jordan. Hey, Nick. Hey, Brett. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this call.
Yeah, we're finding everyone we get on the show generally is excited about to be involved with Barkarati. So yeah, you like the rest of them.
I'm sure I am.
Look, I'll take the lead here if you don't mind, boys. Foiling Week, has become, I guess, a phenomenon, if you like, foiling in general as well. It's become embraced, I guess, globally, if you like, from over the years. You've done 10 foiling weeks now. Is that correct?
Yes. We just finished number 10. We started in 2014. We have done 6 in Italy, 2 in Sydney, 1 in Miami, and 1 in Newport. So that's a total of 10.
Yeah, awesome. Could you just sort of tell us about how it all started? I mean, you obviously were sitting around. You had your mate Domenico Boffi, who's what was his nickname? What did you call him?
Mimo. Yeah, we call him Mimo. Which in Italy is very much the nickname for pizza makers, but it's okay.
kind of like in Australia, I guess we call them Davo or Devo or Jono.
It's okay, exactly like that.
Cool. So you're sitting around with Mimo and you're having a beer or two, and you've decided, stuff it, we're going to do a foiling week. Is that right?
Exactly like that. It was 2013. I was back then. I was the president of the Italian boat class. We were having a drink on the lake because we had the Italian nationals in Lake Garda. The cup just finished, the one in San Francisco, from like 2-3 weeks. And we were thinking, okay, if the motte, which is 11 feet, can foil, and if a catamaran, which is 72 feet, can foil, then everything in between will foil sooner or later. So why don't we organize something that just help this foiling phenomenon going forward?
Awesome. I mean, it's sort of, I guess, forward thinking on your behalf, but also maybe entrepreneurial as well, I guess, because as I said earlier, it's definitely become it's embraced globally. It's going from strength to strength. I mean, you'd have to say that it's got a future still going.
Yeah, there's plenty of plans of foiling week future events. We are changing it constantly, actually, because we sort of follow and anticipate at the same time what foiling does, and foiling changes dramatically year by year. So we just try to stay in the right place at the right time.
Right, so the actual format of, if you like, is for new boats, new technology to be sort of looked at, but also to keep existing boats, upgraded all the time, but also getting everyone together. It seems like it's a real family.
It is. That's what the events are about. The idea is, and that was the initial idea, just to get the people together to talk and discuss, because in our view, that was the way to make it go faster and have more people embracing the idea. So we had racing, of course, for people that already had the boats, trials and exhibitions, so people could come and experience foiling, because that's really the biggest difference. It's to experience it, to feel what flying above the water is. And also, we had this conference, which are, we try to keep them not so technical, because the idea is to have, let's say, experts, but to have them discussing with the average, let's say, foiling sailor, which on one way is also people that normally has a very good know-how of sailing physics, but we just don't want to make it too technical. So it's a matter of discussing and seeing what are the innovations, where they are, and how can everybody take advantage of what the others are doing. It's a very open field, let's say.
Hey, Luca. I can't. Bicey here, and can't wait to get to a foiling week at some point. But just going back to your comment earlier, when you're sitting down with Mimo and you've just come out the back of the America's Cup with the foiling 72-foot cats. When that design was conceived, did you see those cats foiling around the course, or that was you just saw the development come through?
No, honestly, I didn't. Only when New Zealand started showing it was possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like all the others. I mean, I didn't have this forecasting capacity to say, okay, they're going to foil. If I had, they would call me the America's Cup sooner.
Hey, Luca, Jordan here. I just want to ask a simple one. What's the most surprising or unusual thing you've learned at Foiling Week? Something that's really just blown you out of the water?
Well, it's hard to say. The most surprising thing, it's I don't know what I like about the event, and it's surprising me every time, is that people comes back and we have more and more people, and it's the mix really. We like in this last event 2 weeks ago we had François Gabard, and there's many like him that come at the events. And what is good, I think, is this thing that we have Francois talking with the kids, discussing foiling, talking with the most sailors. Everybody talks. It's just a place where maybe Lake Garda helps with a glass of wine in your hand. But again, it's just that it feels like a foiling bar. Just people talk and discuss, and it's this friendly environment where there is. Like lots of these people in the water, in theory, they are competitors, for example. Lots of people from the America's Cup, these guys from the team, Trimarans, they are competitors. But when they come at Foiling Week, it's like the Switzerland of foiling. We just become a place where they talk.
Yeah, Luca, I was lucky enough to listen to Francois speak at the Yacht Racing Forum a few years ago. And he's certainly someone with a lot of vision, and it sounds pretty inspiring, and especially for the young kids. But a little bit off topic from the young kids, I'm guessing there's a big difference having Foiling Week in Italy or Sydney in the different kind of alcohol that's consumed, which is pretty close to our heart.
Well, there certainly is a difference. Well, first of all, I love Sydney. I lived there for a few years. It's my favorite sailing city. Super good memories. I was sailing 49ers, 18 footers when I was there. I just loved it. So that said,
sorry guys, probably a good point there. We actually didn't realise we knew each other when we first started initiated this conversation. So there you go.
Yeah, and the main difference is really the difference is in size. It's like Lake Garda takes all the foiling week that we do, like the one in the US or the one in Garda. They take let's say the local continental foilers. So in Europe we have lots of people that goes foiling, and they all come at Foiling Week, and that's why we have like 150, 180 boats participating. In Sydney, the number of people that is foiling currently is much less. So we have lower number of people attending. We certainly have, I would say in Australia, you certainly have more people doing boards with foils, like windsurf, even surfboards or SUP, all of these kind of things. I mean, that's obvious because of the amazing beaches that you have over there. But that's really the only difference is the size of the event. But in terms of type of guys and technical people, it's of course super high quality. I mean, Australia basically is the one that started foiling recently. So it's like that.
So Luca, over the years that this has been going, what sort of trends do you see? You said you couldn't really view into the future too much, but I think you'd have a pretty good idea of what you've seen in the last couple of years, and what do you see coming up?
Well, there's I would say it's in terms of trends. It is the initial boats. They were catering for the high end sailors, the one that were coming like from 49ers or this kind of sailboats. So they were used already to speed. So like the Moths, the Flying Phantom, the initial boats, they were for people that already knew quite well how to go fast. But then I think what we see is that the foiling is filling the niches on the two sides. So on one side you have boats that are even more high performing. One example was, for example, the super foiler that of course didn't unfortunately end too well, as far as I remember. But on the other side, you have more simple boats for beginners, like the UFO, the Wasp, the Nikki. They just come out now from Australia with the help of the young Bishop. So there's, I would say slowly it's filling all the niche in the sailing market, from kids to young adults, old adults. There's the 69F just come out in Italy, which is basically a keel boat for 3 people. So it's getting also in the sport boat market. So there's plenty coming up. It's going to be difficult to say now which is coming up as a winner, as a fleet, because that depends, in my experience so far, it really depends a lot on how good is your distributor.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And obviously, commercially, it looks as though it's taken a pretty good, going very well as well. You've got some big hitters there, the Persicos and the Gurits helping out. So I think it's a fantastic.
I lost you there. Sorry, can you just say again?
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I was just commenting. Commercially, it looks as though the event is going well with some big hitters within the marine industry, the likes of Persico and Gurit and what have you. So they obviously recognise a great event also.
Yes, I think in the marine industry, all the top brands are there. We have the one you mentioned. We have Marlowe. We have Torqeedo. There's plenty of brands from the marine side that are certainly helping the event to grow. To grow more, of course, we will need also brands from outside the marine world to come and play with us, because it's not cheap to run these events, especially when you start going overseas. And I mean, the complication is, since they are not simple regattas, but there's so many more things attached to them. So we certainly need funds to grow.
So I'm going to just sort of test your knowledge a little bit here, Luca, and I'm going to step back into a little bit of history of foiling. So you ready to have a little bit of a go at this?
History of foiling, well, actually it was an Italian that invented it in 1907 called Enrico Forlanini.
Except there is, I can take it one little step further. I was hoping you'd answer that. I'm very, very happy that you did. But let me just go one step further. There was actually a Parisian before that who applied for a patent in 1869. His name was Emmanuel Denis Farceau, but I don't think he ever actually got on the water. He thought about it theoretically.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with that, PP. No, what I'm saying is, when I say Enrico was what I mean, maybe not invented is the right word. I would say it's like the Wright brothers. It's the first one that made it work. Okay.
Yeah, very cool.
So
very cool.
Other people tried it first, but the first powered vessel to actually foil was made by an Italian. So other people tried before. That's
very, very cool. But also, I can sort of extend.
Got something over the Frenchies there. Well done.
Yeah, beauty. But I can sort of extend it a little bit further, if you don't mind. We move on from there to. We move on to Alexander Graham Bell, a very famous name in technology, I guess, of the time. His assistant Casey Brown in 1908. Then we go to old Robert Gilruth. He foiled a catamaran in 1938. So moving right along, and then we come to Australia, and this is a beauty, Bicey. You'll love this. Foiling Frank.
Foiling Frank.
What's Foiling Frank?
Yep.
I never heard of Foiling Frank.
Oh, there you go. You see, so I've done some research on this area. Foiling Frank, he is the first ever foiling moth, believe it or not, in 1970.
Oh, Jesus should know this one.
I reckon he had a good hard crack of it, and decided that after he lost the foil and it going over waves, he packed it up and went home. And so from there, and then even people like Harkin foiled the Wallies, believe it or not. Jordan, there you go, there's one for you.
That's good. I was just going to say, our American listeners will hear the words "falling Frank" and imagine a hot dog falling across the water.
Well, I was waiting for the foiling telephone from Alexander Bell.
So there you go. Some really interesting stuff about foiling, and obviously the trend has gotten obviously more technical, if you like, since then. But it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for the foiling, Frank. I didn't know that, BP. Thank you.
Luca, we're sort of getting close to our time here. I just want to ask a quick one, just for helping you out a little bit. So, from my knowledge of Foiling Week, it's not just racing. You can come along, there's coaching, you can go and try and have learning sessions. It's not just sailing as well. There's other vessels, other boards, all different forms of foiling are there, correct? So, and so people can come along and see everything about foiling.
Yes, exactly. That's the idea. It's to be an event that is open to all the different aspects. Whether you are an America's Cup sailor or a beginner, if you are into foiling, you should come at the Foiling Week. And
it's open to all.
Open and free for everyone. That's the idea.
And when is the next one?
I don't know. At the moment, the first one we know for sure is going to happen is the next Garda one. We are working on a few more international events at the moment, but we don't know the dates yet. It's quite obvious that we're going to come back to Australia and or New Zealand, but we will see.
Okay. If people want to follow you guys and just know where it's going to be, what's the best way for them to sort of track? Just on the website or a Facebook page or what?
Website and also our Facebook page. Foiling Week is probably one of the most followed pages on foiling. You see all the news on foiling and all the news on Foiling Week. They are on our Facebook page, so easy to follow that.
BP or Bicey, anything more?
Yep, certainly from we love the fact it's all inclusive. Love the fact it's going to get kids out on the water and inspire kids to get out on the water and off the couch and behind the consoles. So well done, congratulations. We will continue to follow, and as I said, I'd love to be there at some point one day.
Thank you very much, guys. Look forward to having you there.
I think we can take that further, Bicey. I've been thinking the whole time we've been having this discussion, why wouldn't we just do a broadcast, Barcarati at the Foiling Week?
Live. Love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's discuss it. More than open.
BP, you don't want to do that?
Oh, I think it'll just be too much for me to handle. Lake Garda, foiling, Bicey, Jordan. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Luca. I think we're going to have to call it quits there, mate. I appreciate you taking the time. We know it was a hard fit, and we really appreciate you making the effort for us, bud.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks, Unique. Thanks, BP. Bye, guys. Thanks again.
Ciao. Yeah.
Very cool of the guy to spend some time with us. Boys, we've got to move on to race results. Oh, Bossy, you want to say something?
Where shall we start? Fastnet.
Yeah, let's go to the Fastnet. Why not? Let's go. This has been cool.
So I guess we'll start at the top end of the fleet in a true David and Goliath battle. Rambler takes the win, and ironically, Rambler is owned by George David, so David takes the win also. But so that was in a record time, and they had a extremely fast race and some super quick reaching. And then we saw the Wizard, who fresh off her transatlantic win, take it out on IRC. So those three boats were super, super quick. And then something which was super cool was the tries, with Gitana taking first blood this season against Massif, beating them in less than a minute over the line. You
see that footage of them crossing the line? It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable. So if you thought that these boats just clear out and no one sees them again, well, different story. Match racing, a couple of 100-foot tries into Plymouth would have been pretty exciting, I reckon. And as we mentioned earlier, Sherrill tipped the rest of the 60s up to take what you'd say a confidence-boosting win, followed by PRB. But something super interesting I found, you look at the results, and apart from 2 categories, the rest were taken out by the French.
Really?
In handicap honours.
Wow.
So if you go down the list through the 38 different divisions there, certainly at the top of the podium, French everywhere. So
it's safe to say they like their sailing.
Yeah, and it's safe to say they're pretty good, I reckon. But yeah, awesome event. And as a very slow start, but then once they got to crack sheets and head up the Irish Sea, and they just pedal down, foot down, and they were off. So certainly at the top end of the fleet. So pretty exciting race all round. And congratulations to Wizard, taking their second win out of 2 races within the month. So they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, those guys are on fire, doing really well. I did have a quick look at the two-handed stuff because we had a bit of a chat about that, and I noticed the JPK 1030, which is a relatively new design, just beating the brand new Genove Sunfast 33, which has just come out. So I'm intrigued by what is going to be. We were talking about what boats will be successful in that, so I went and actually had a bit of a look at that. So there's a little bit of footage, and Henry Bombi was right there, mate, in second place. So good work.
Good regatta.
Good regatta. All right, BP.
This always is a good one. Look, I'm going to go straight into the keeping in theme with what we've been doing over the last few weeks with the metre boats. So I've been keeping an eye on the 6 metres. Amazing result in the end. It was a 3-way tie and a count back for first, second and third. So there you go, 15 points apiece, and must have been pretty tight racing. Not going to go too long into it. We've got a very long show here, but look, Philippe Deur from Switzerland got in first place. Patrick Monteiro de Barros, Portugal, in second, and our old mate Hugo Stenbeck, famous for being the owner of Victory Challenge in the America's Cup in 2007 in Valencia, is loving his 6 metre. I did actually see that boat when it was being built, just happened to be built at that place, so it was very interesting. So there's the result for the 6 metres. As we know, we love the metre classes on this show, and we'll keep following those guys as they keep pursuing their World Championship dreams. So it was all very close for a count back. So excellent results for all.
Yeah, mate, I was actually chatting to one of the crews on those winning those first 3 boats, Bernardo Freitas, and he's going to join us next week, I think. He's definitely keen to be here. So we could be, we'll have a bit of a chat more about that, because that's quite incredible. 3 boats tied for first in a World Championships. Be very exciting.
It'd be good to get some inside gosh, yeah.
Speaking of very exciting, 470 World Champs. Did you guys see the end of that? That was pretty crazy. I'll just let you know, just in case you missed it. So in the men's, the Australian team of Matt Belcher and Will Ryan broke through for their 8th win for Matt, I think, and 5th for Will. So really exciting, a new one for them. But they were second going into the medal race, and they were fighting out with Jordi Chama and Nick Rodriguez, the Spanish team. And what happened was they were over the line early. So Matt and Will actually went back. And then Chama and Rodriguez get to the top mark and got pulled off the course. So, so Matt and Will won in quite...
Oh, they were both over, you're saying?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Nothing better than match race in a gold medal race.
Yeah. So that was quite intense. And then, of course, because I think Jordi and Nicholas, I think the Spanish boys were pretty keen to have the win, obviously, and just get pulled out like that. So, and Matt and Ryan actually will actually manage to get back up into 3rd place in that race. So they've had quite a good win in the end. And then in 3rd was the Swede team of Dahlberg and Bergstrom. In the women's, Hannah Mills and Elodie McIntyre finally got their win. So Hannah, of course, has won in the past, but she teamed up with Elodie not too long ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, and they've managed to come second and third but not win. And so this time they did, beating last year's world champions Yoshida and Yoshioka. And then, of course, the French team, Les Contraires and Retournades.
Turn it up, will you? You're just making them up now.
Yep. Mate, do you know how I prepared for today? I actually went and got some video of Guillaume having a chat, an interview in French, and I just listened to the names just to see if I could get close.
Oh, I love the way you prepare.
505 Europeans, congratulations to the Pommy team of Roger Gilbert and Ben McGrain. Good to see they had a win. Held out the old fella, Ian Pennell. I don't know if you guys know Ian at all, but he's a cracking bloke. And Dave Shelton. Howie Hamlin, another cracking bloke, with another cracking bloke, Jeff Nelson in third. So there you go. And
some good names there.
One of the legends, Wolfgang Hunger and Holger Jess in fourth. So that was the 5-0s. Round the grounds, early race week starts, or it's actually started, so that's going on. Cows race week, when the wind stops blowing, they should probably be racing today, I think. Sail GP, they didn't race yesterday, they should be racing today. And the ORC European Championships in Sweden, that'll be interesting. There'll be some interesting boats there.
I've just seen the Sail GP. They are going to do a couple of flybys.
Oh, okay.
And then a couple of fleet races later in the day when the breeze drops a little. But all the shore crew have got some definite pucker on at the moment because they know their boat's not coming back in one piece.
Yeah, I guess that's how it is when they leave every day, I'd say. The inside goss would be pretty intense behind the scenes in that one. Just touching on the ORC Europeans, that's an exciting fleet as well for if you're into that sort of fleet racing that's hotly contested. So we'll be all over that for next week. So I'm looking forward to getting some results there.
Great work, BP. Guys, if you want to get in touch with us and let us ask us to look at anything, come to us via our Facebook page or the Instagram page. Come on board and like us because that helps it get out to more sailors. I'd never wanted to start saying that stuff, but it does. It absolutely makes a difference. So we've been overwhelmed by the amount of enthusiasm we've got to this this podcast, and we're loving it. We're having a grand old time. So keep liking it for us, will you? It'd be good. Our quiz question. Remember I asked what was the most unusual event that had ever been part of the Olympics, and we had some pretty great responses. The one that was really close was Michael James, who's happy birthday today, Jamesy. I think it's his birthday from memory. He's a good man, the world's nicest guy. I've always described him as. The 100-metre freestyle for sailors. So he was straight onto this. They had an event at the Olympics where you had to be a member of the Navy, and then you could swim, and that was it. And in the only year they did it, they had 3 Greek or members of the Hellenic Navy. They were the only entrants. So Greece got gold, silver, and bronze, and they were the only 3 entries. Tracy Arias said synchronised swimming. She got very close. And then, of course, Harry Fisher put up a picture of that one on the ice where they roll a stone and hit it with a broom, whatever that's called.
Curling.
There we go.
Whatever it's called. What a nuts sport that is. Anyway,
there were a few other fun ones, but I thought I'd actually tell you. So a few here. There were a few entries, but they have had at the Olympics the horse long jump. So, yeah, I'm serious. Yep.
What, the horse Olympics?
Yeah,
the Queen Olympics.
They had the horse Olympics in 1900, I think. They had the plunge.
Stop. I've just got this vision of this horse at the start of this runway. Do you know they do that little rock before they start?
Yeah. With the lycra on. You imagine the schlong swinging away in the lycra.
And off he goes bolting down the thing and then hits that plate and jumps up in the air, arms and legs going everywhere.
Yeah, you're not far wrong, but it didn't quite look like that. But yeah, it didn't last. And then they had an event. This is true. It's called plunge for distance, right? So what you did, you had to stand at the edge of the pool, and then you had to dive in, and then it was how far you floated after you dived into the pool. When you ran out of steam, like we all did as kids.
Yeah.
And then
someone obviously had fun doing that as a kid and thought, my inspiration, or what I'm going to do in my life, is introduce this to the Olympics.
Yep, exactly. There's a couple of other stupid ones like a tug, or not stupid, but not Olympic, tug of war, the rope climb, croquet, and they had a water motorsport event, I think, once. And then there was two others. One is, and this was in the 84 Olympics, right? This is 84 and 88, I reckon. Synchronized swimming, which of course is a little bit strange, but solo synchronized swimming.
Imagine if you became unsynchronized.
Yeah.
God, that got lost a bit in translation, didn't it?
And the last one.
And you meant to keep up with your right hand.
Yeah. There was an obstacle swim race as well, so that was quite crazy. And I found another one. Remember the Ronston discussion where we're talking about the best name combinations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of people put up some good ones and good laugh on the Facebook page. But I found, this is true, I found a town in the United States of America called Snowflake. Do you want to guess how that name came about?
Oh, named after the dolphin in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective?
Yeah, no. In 1878, the town was founded by Erastus Snow and William Jordan Flake. Snow and Flake.
Wow. That's good.
It is.
And I've got a late entry for a good name, and it actually relates to us a bit because it was going to be the name of a boat. And it was a couple of gentlemen in Port Lincoln who had a Far Banks 30, and it was owned by Mark Carr and Tim Nelligan, and it was going to be called Far Car Nell.
Which is a town on the east coast of Australia. Let's call it that. Far Car Nell. Those Port Lincoln boys, hey, they're a bit loose. Never trust a guy from Port Lincoln. Bicey was born in Port Lincoln, in case you're wondering, everyone. That was the whole joke there. He didn't laugh. He was having a drink of water. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. So I've got the quiz question for this week, or the question that you have to come up with an answer from. What was the biggest cheating scandal from the 2000 Paralympic Games? That's it. So,
right.
Scratch your head.
Get onto Google. Off you go.
Yeah. You'll enjoy it when you discover it, though. You'll have a good chuckle when you discover it. So I just thought you'd enjoy it. That's kind of the motivation for these now, just to make you have a read and go, oh, that's quite good. That's it for me.
Getting the messages up now. Bing, bing, bing. It's just going nuts.
Another long one, boys. So well done. Thanks for putting up with me. Thanks for listening in, everyone. Anything from you, Bossy?
No, all good from me. Just and I believe we'll be seated alongside each other for our broadcast next week, Joe.
We will. Let's hope we get a Wi-Fi from there. Let's hope we can get to the internet.
Let the tour continue.
BP, how about you, my friend?
Yeah, all good here. So I'll be in Sydney dealing with the technology.
All right. See you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for listening in. Enjoy Bar Karate.
Running at night jet through the sea, down the mountains roll a ladder me.